All right, so I just wanted to say we're back, and I have more irrefutable evidence for my side. As you can see, um, masks don't work. All right.
Very
Now,
nice.
what have you got, Rick?
All right, so I read a little about Portland, and I'm still incompletely informed. They protesters, you call them rioters, burnt part of a justice center, which I assume is a combined police station and jail, on May 30th. Last night, they burnt the headquarters of the police union, and they also set some dumpster fires. Last night, I believe, was night 50 of the protests in Portland. Now, beyond that, I don't know if anything else was burnt.
All right. Well, that's a good start. So my situation is this. I've been very angry at Trump because I expected a law and order president, and he was just doing what the governors and mayors told him. They weren't asking for any help, and he had to have a kind of an ingenious plan to get around the governors and mayors who were letting the protesters and rioters destroy their cities. And so I he's finally called up a some U.S. Marshals and Border Patrol people, and he's given them tactics that don't get them in the way of the Portland police and get them to where they can isolate and harass and detain rioters. And so I'm just very proud of Trump. Before you interrupt me, and my what this is leading to is two things. Number one, it will dampen the enthusiasm of the rioters. Um, and I know this because I talk about it too frequently, I'm afraid, but I was in one protest, and we were it was an anti-lockdown protest, and we were surrounded by some very well equipped, very aggressive police. And had they told me that they were coming after me, I would have been in big trouble. And nothing, nothing dampens the enthusiasm of a rioter more than that. And so I'm glad Trump is doing that. But beyond that, this is going to set up a situation where Trump is going to have a tremendous advantage in the election. So you better hope that this doesn't work out, because if Trump can succeed at portraying himself as law and order president, and Biden continues to be tepid and waffling on what to do about the riots, then Trump will win, because the law and order president always wins with the majority. The law and order candidate always wins with the majority of Americans. The
Um,
majority of Americans in my lifetime have never been revolutionaries.
so I think to really go back to law and order being an issue, I think we would both think of 1968, Nixon versus Humphrey, right?
Yeah,
With
sure.
Vietnam rioters, with the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, with police wading into the crowds of protesters. And indeed, Nixon won that election. Um, but I'm not sure we have enough other examples to say whether this is going to help Trump or not. Um, you've got these federal, we don't know exactly what they are, troops coming in to fuck with the protesters
Well,
coming into
they're
Portland,
federal
and
they're federal marshals and immigration
okay,
troops.
and Trump wants to make this nationwide, that he wants to send them to wherever there's a trouble spot, or I guess a potential trouble spot, and it's unknown whether this will win him or lose him votes. I can tell you that he's lost nearly 1/8 of his approval um, numbers since the beginning, in the past 3 months, since April. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I hope it doesn't help him. And obviously, the people I commune with on Twitter are all, appalled by this. But I don't commune with, a bunch of MAGA people. So I don't know. Um, but it is what he's doing. Um, we can argue about, whether the protesters, whether this is an overreaction, but I don't know. We can move because our stances on that are going to be obvious. Though there was great footage of these federal guys um, just whapping the hell out of a guy, and also like just with their sticks, and then dousing him with tear gas. And the guy, my part of Twitter loved it because he didn't fall. He just walked away flipping off the guys. Anyway,
Excuse me. I'm
um,
getting bad reception up down here. All right.
okay,
So,
so
all right.
let's go to the other thing, which is I looked
Yes.
up
There's something else?
Biden's I looked up Biden's immigration policy, and
Yeah.
indeed he is offering a path to citizenship for what he says are slightly less than 11 million undocumented immigrants, which you would call illegal aliens. Um, and he doesn't say, because this is a thumbnail kind of deal. It's not doesn't go into great detail, but I looked up what pathway to citizenship has meant historically, and it generally means 5 to 15 years to get a green card, uh, during which time you're supposed to be monitored by the government, checking in with them periodically. You're not supposed to be getting into trouble. No DUIs, no domestic disputes, no, you know, you know, no more serious shit. You're just, you know, nothing more serious than say, a traffic ticket, say. And then so 5 to 15 years green card, and then another 5 to 7 years after you get your green card to earn citizenship. So it's not like there's no. You can say, yeah, that Biden might. You can, yeah, he might have a plan to just say, if that ollie ollie oxen free. Anybody who's in America gets to be a citizen right now. That's never how it's worked. And during recent history, it's taken 10 to over 20 years.
Okay. Well, the most famous amnesty was under Reagan. It was what he believed was his biggest mistake. And at that time, that was probably how it was done, because there was an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats, and it ended by saying, and this is the last time we'll ever do this. And so the Republicans compromised and said, okay, we'll let you legalize a certain number of illegal immigrants, but then that's it. And of course, the Democrats broke their word because they immediately found out, hey, these people vote Democrat. Now, my argument is this: no matter how long you think it's going to take for Biden to naturalize these illegals, I predict that it's going to take less than 4 years, because with 11 million new Democrats, the Democrats will never lose another election. So if the and I say it'll be 22 million, except for the kids who can't vote yet. So my point is that Biden will. It is in his interests to legalize all of them once after he gets elected and before his reelection, because the Democrats will control the United States for the rest of our lives and beyond.
Yeah, but they won't
So,
control the Democrats won't have 60 senators. The Democrats may
oh
not even
yeah,
reach.
the Democrats will have 22 million people that want to vote for them.
Yeah, but
And
when the
as
when
you
the when
know,
the election of 2020 is over, the Democrats will be lucky to take over the Senate, and
well,
and they'll be
they'll
lucky to get 50 senators plus a president or a vice
I
president,
know
to
that
have
may be
a
the case,
slim
but
majority. So, but
most of
they won't
the
be able to
country is
pass anything like you're talking about.
the country is evenly divided, and in as you know, the election of 2016 hung on the balance of 100,000 votes in the right states.
Yeah, no, I'm not
So
arguing about that, but
so
I
they
am arguing that
it won't be a
That Biden.
hundred.
All I'm saying is that Biden's not the absolute boss of immigration, and that any plan that would turn people from undocumented to citizens in 4 years, there's no way that that would get through the legislative bodies. It just can't.
Yeah,
That would take a.
it would very easily, as was proven by actions this week by the Supreme Court, who in the last I don't know, in the waning moments of the Obama presidency, he issued an executive order that the DACA immigrants could stay in the country. Now, for those of you, our viewers who don't know, DACA immigrants are people that were brought to this country that were under the age of 18. And so the Democrats want all of those people to be able to stay. There's about 1.5 million of them. And Obama just issued an executive order saying, okay, I'll let them. Now, since he did that, the Trump administration has tried repeatedly, every way possible, to reverse that presidential order. Trump has said, look, I'm the new president. I am now making an executive order that they have to leave. But the Supreme Court has taken the side of the DACA people and said, no, not so fast. You have to let them stay, at least until we can work more things out. So the Supreme Court, it's a little complicated what they've been doing, but the in essence they have thwarted Trump from getting rid of these DACA people, and
Well, I mean, I haven't read it in detail.
solely it was based solely on a presidential executive order that bypassed the legislature completely. So if the Supreme Court and the president decide that they're going to let 22 million illegal immigrants be American citizens, you can bet they'll figure out a way. I have no doubt, given the history
You've
of
got a
what they've been
conservative
doing in the
majority on the
past year.
Supreme Court.
No, actually, you don't. What happened is Justice Roberts voted in favor of the illegals this week.
Yeah, but you can't call Roberts. He's not a liberal. He was so. But so
It's
I'm just
irrelevant.
saying that
It's
what.
irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
But the
It's
deal is
irrelevant.
that the DACA thing, Trump's move to get rid of DACA, at least according to what I read, which was not much, was the Supreme Court didn't buy his arguments for that said the arguments weren't good, weren't well formed, and that if Trump wants to rescind DACA, then the arguments are going to have to be more well formed. I just can't imagine any set of circumstances you can where you'd get a Supreme Court, especially under the way it's currently constituted, to okay a path to citizenship that's less than 4 years long.
Well,
But
you can
anyway,
see that.
that's
You
all.
wait,
It's
no,
all
no, no, we're
wild
not done.
speculation.
You're not. I'm not done.
Okay.
What happened was the Supreme Court. What happened was as soon as Trump got into office, he had a secretary that was there is, I think it's Homeland or something like that, Interior. There is one secretary in charge of illegal immigration. And she immediately said, okay, we reverse that executive order.
Kirsten Nielsen.
And no, the one before that. Anyway, she left the position and was replaced by another one, who I think is Kristen Nielsen, who wrote a very lengthy explanation why. So, what the Supreme Court did this time is they reviewed the first order that was kind of brief and just and perfunctory, saying, okay, we reversed the Obama executive order. We're the new executive, and our executive order is to reverse his executive order. And the Supreme Court ignored the very lengthy, detailed one by the next secretary. And I know this because Justice Kavanaugh pointed this out. It said, you're deliberately ignoring their explanation. Now, I know that you say that Roberts is conservative, but regardless of what he is on this issue, he was unfair in that he ignored the lengthy reversal by the next secretary of the department, Nielsen, and he ignored it deliberately and hung on a technicality, saying, "Well, this wasn't well argued," and the Supreme Court has common sense too. They don't have to depend on technicalities. If they think that according to Justice Thomas, what they've set up is a situation where if the Supreme Court and the president likes something, then they just ignore the legislature. Now, and the way they're doing it is by just ignoring common sense. It's
Well, no, you
obvious
said
that
the
if
Supreme Court
something,
has common sense. I thought you just said that the
yeah,
Supreme Court has common sense.
it can rely on common sense. And the most common sense argument is this: a president making an executive order has bypassed the legislation, the legislative process. He's bypassed Congress. Now, if he can make if he can make an executive order doing something, then the next president coming in can make an executive order undoing that thing. It's just common sense. You don't need a
Well,
legalistic
all right, okay,
approach.
okay. But
So
look at the
my
common
point
sense
is
thing.
that they deliberately ignored that, and they even ignored the lengthy and detailed argument by the second secretary, which was blatantly unfair. So what I'm saying to you is, if Roberts feels like it, he will legalize those 22 million illegals. That's what I
Well,
know
all
from
right,
what
I
he
just
has
can't
done so
imagine a
far.
common sense argument for doing that, but there is a common sense argument for letting DACA people stay because DACA people were brought to America by their parents. Yeah, illegally, but the kids had no agency. They weren't in charge of themselves. They were anywhere from 0 fucking years old to I don't know what the top age. I don't know, say 10 years old. I
18,
don't know what.
18,
No,
from
no,
0
no.
to 18.
When they were brought to America, which is different.
Yeah, so if they were 17 and 11 months, they're in DACA.
Okay, so they're brought to America by their parents. Most of them aren't 17, but most of them, were much younger kids. They've been here for years. They have no home, no recent home in another country, and they speak English. They they they've been going to American schools, and it makes sense for them to consider themselves American, um, and to and to offer it to them. Now, maybe you can argue it was precipitous or impetuous or whatever for Obama to offer it to him, but for Trump to pull that carpet out from under him because he doesn't like immigration, that seems capricious considering DACA people's situation. But
Well,
anyway,
it's actually capricious is a word meaning changeable and unwarrantedly flipping, changing without, I mean, changing without warrant, and mind changing over superficial things. No, it's not capricious. We've had immigration law in this country for hundreds of years saying that you can't bring somebody in and then just say they're American because they were kids. That's not capricious. That's the opposite of capricious. Now, I have a
Okay.
point I'd like to make. I have a little story because I try to tell little stories to myself about how to explain this to myself, how to think about it. When I was a kid, we traveled a lot in Europe. And in some of the places we traveled to, like Britain and France, the lifestyle was actually better than it was in America in some ways. And I remember every single time I went to a country and stayed a little longer than I should, there was the issue of, they're not going to let us stay here. They don't do that. We're not French citizens. And I remember one time I got in big trouble with the British government who said, "You're not allowed to stay here. You're not British." And again, I was under 18. I could have said, "But I'm a dreamer. I'm DACA." The DACA stands for dreamers because all illegal immigrants under 18 are actually full of the American dream. And there were times when I wanted to stay, but the British government wouldn't let me. And I want to go further. I remember we went to France one time when I was probably 11 years old. If we had stayed there until I was 18, not for 1 second would I have imagined that I was a French citizen. That, oh, okay, well, I'm French. I have a right to be here. Never. It never occurred to us in all the countries we went to when I was a kid that if I could just somehow hunker down and avoid the authorities, that they would just make me a French citizen or a Dutch citizen. It's absurd. But what's happening is the Democrats have figured out that these people will vote Democrat, and the people from Central America and Mexico have figured out that they prefer living here. So suddenly they're Americans. They're as American as Abraham Lincoln. And it's just not right.
Okay. Oh,
So
one more thing from
I don't sympathize with them.
okay, one more thing from Biden's plan that America has tried to do in the past with varying degrees of success is well, nobody wants to come to America right now. And nobody wants Americans in their country right now because we're lousy with COVID. So the border seems pretty fucking secure right now. Biden says he wants to secure the border. Biden says he wants to do this other thing, which is throw some money, not a lot of money, like in the range of 750 million, which is a lot of money to us, but not in terms of government shit, to these fucked up countries called the Southern Triangle, I guess, which is like Costa Rica and Guatemala and countries where people want to get the fuck out because everything's fucked up down there and they want to come up here. And one way to reduce immigration is to make it so shit's not so fucked up in these countries that people want to get the fuck out of. Anyway, um, Carol and I have been looking at other, it's a liberal thing to say if Trump wins again, we're going to move. But let's say Trump is down 12 points in the polls at the beginning of November, and then he somehow wins. He's down in all the swing states because right now, out of like 14 swing states, he's trailing in 12 of them. If he somehow wins, that to me and to Carol is disquieting, and that to us feels a little like Germany in the early 30s. And a shitload of smart people got out of Germany in the early 30s before it got really tough to get out. So we've been looking, and um, there are a lot of countries we can move to because I have a pension. I've got a Writers Guild pension. And if you want to retire to another country, a lot of countries are reasonably happy to welcome you and your money. You may not get to be a citizen, or it may take a lot of years, but it's a thing that is doable. Even though
All right.
somebody might, throw a mug at our heads for being American in a pub in Liverpool.
All right. And if you're finished, I'll
Yeah.
respond. Um, I just wanted to mention something that hasn't been brought up by any of the liberal hysterics, just a brief thing. Apparently, there is COVID coming over the border into Texas and California and Arizona from Mexico. So that may be contributing, and I don't know why it wouldn't, to the higher rate that of the Wuhan virus in Texas, Arizona, and California.
Do you have
It
any
doesn't
idea how
affect.
many people are coming over the border right now?
No, no, but I've heard that there is a spike in Mexico. And so, since there are a lot of people that come from Mexico into those three states, it's only a matter of common sense, again, that they would be bringing COVID with them. So that, and our employment situation is getting better here. So that would be another draw for them to start coming back. So one more reason to keep building that wall. And one more explanation as to the spikes. But
Yeah,
I'd
I don't
like to
buy
go
that, but I'm
on.
not going to argue with you about it because I want to move
Yeah,
on
I
to
know
other
you don't
stuff,
buy
though.
it because it doesn't fit your bigotry.
No, I know
So,
it just I don't buy it statistically that I'll give you 2% of the COVID cases might come
all
from.
right,
But anyway,
all
I
right.
just want to
I
for a second.
introduced it. Okay, go ahead. I
Um,
wasn't done. I was going to respond to your fleeing, your emigration, but go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, and then we'll. Okay.
No, I've talked to a lot of liberals that say they're going to leave the country if Trump gets elected again. And I don't really know. I mean, this convinces me that the struggle right now is between the dumb people and the smart people. Now, I know this is personally insulting to you, but I've come to the conclusion that you're a savant and that a lot of liberals are extremely intelligent, maybe overwhelmingly intelligent in some area, but lack a kind of wisdom. And I really don't understand what you think Trump is going to do to America that would be so unendurable that you have to leave the country. It shows me that you're kind of childish and muddle headed.
Well, then let me respond. Where I've probably thrown up more than 3,000 "fuck you Trump" tweets on Twitter, where I have 1 million followers, some of them even real. Um, and for the past 3.5 years, I've been basically saying "fuck you Trump" on this show. So I would think that that I would expect that there's an FBI file on me. That it's not very thick, but if the FBI surveils, say, 1% of the U.S. population, there's a reasonable chance, not surveils actively, but just compiles information, say. There's a reasonable chance I'd be in that 1%. And I don't know what percent of the U.S. I mean, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 11%. If it's 11%, and I've done so many angry tweets, you know, anyway, and you know, liberals think that Bill Barr isn't so into the rule of law, that and gone up in value. And, you know, So on the one hand, I've got some uneasiness about what can happen when government becomes less respectful of the rule of law. On the other hand, we've got money, we've got equity tied up in our house that could be turned into something else if we sold the house. Like if we wanted to, we couldn't move to London where our kid is currently studying, but we could move to 20 miles outside of London, and get a halfway decent little place, um, and enjoy and be close to our kid and be in fucking England, which is, if you're not from England, England's fucking great. There are plenty of places that you don't want to be in England, but if you can afford to buy, make some compromises, you can find a quaint part of England where you might have rabbits hopping across your yard. Um, and so, it wouldn't just be fleeing, some things that you think I'm dumb to fear in America. It would also be like going to a place that it would be nice to live as a senior citizen. Um, so,
Okay, well that's one of the differences between a liberal Democrat and a Republican. I endured 8 years of Obama, and I can tell you every time I thought about it, it angered me. But I'm a patriot. I love my country, and so I would never leave America. Now, given that you imagine that somehow Trump will send jackbooted thugs to harass you or steal from you or whatever. I mean, if you that's not a realistic fear, Rick.
well, no, hold on, because
And
you have insisted for years on this show, and you would continue to insist that Obama sicked the IRS on people he didn't like, and
oh yeah,
certainly
I
Nixon.
believe that. I
And
think that
Nixon
was
did the
proven in court.
same thing. Now,
Well,
without admitting
he
that Obama,
tried to.
yeah, so it's not unheard of. You think Obama did it, and Nixon tried to do it, and you'd have a hard time convincing me that Trump has more scruples than fucking Nixon.
Well, I'll tell you how I would convince you. When Obama did it, he did it before 2012 because he was trying to shut down the Tea Party that he thought was going to organize
Yeah, I
against
know, I
him in
didn't.
the
All
swing
right, all right.
states. And that was proven in court. But the point is that if Trump was going to do that, how come he hasn't done it to you by now?
Well,
I mean, history is the best teacher when it comes to character. I mean,
Well,
if this
I
is
don't
his
run a
nature,
I don't run a political organization. I'm just one guy who tweets some jokes and tweets some statistics and
yeah, I
occasionally tweets
understand,
that Trump is a baby.
but Trump, if this is the kind of guy Trump is, then why hasn't he done it already? This may be his only chance.
I don't know. I mean, like he's got a lot of other shit to do, but it doesn't. I mean, Trump comes up with new shit all the time. This sending federal troops into protesting cities, that's new. He didn't do
It's
that three
new.
years
It's
ago.
new because the rioters weren't burning down police stations.
Fine, whatever. It's still new. I mean, the guy can do
He
new shit.
reacts. Listen, Rick, if you don't burn down a police station, I think you'd be pretty safe.
Okay, but like anyway, I can and fucking wouldn't you? You wanted to live in. You've overstayed your visa in London or in Oxford. You wanted to live in London in England too.
Oh no, I can assure you, Rick, there are 100 places on this planet that life would be extremely pleasant and delightful. There's Sweden, there's uh, Italy, the south of France. I mean, God knows where would I begin, except that I love my country. That's the
Yeah, but you can
difference
love your
between a
country and
Democrat
you
and a
can still
Republican.
spend like 2 years in some other country. You can't do that if you're a patriot. You have to stay in your own country.
I wouldn't leave because the president that I didn't vote for got elected. That
All
wouldn't
right,
be
but I
enough
mean,
to drive me out.
okay,
I,
so
I
all
mean,
right,
I, and
let's
I know that because at no time did I ever think of leaving the country under Obama.
okay.
I mean, look. Let's not make it a matter of patriotism. I used that argument. Let's. My other argument is I don't think it's realistic for you to think that Trump's going to come after you. I mean, I think that is a paranoid fantasy
All right,
of
so
somebody that's been brainwashed into believing all kinds of crazy
no, but no,
things.
like
And
so
on some level, I think you realize that.
well, no, I can somewhat agree with you. The deal is that like Hitler becomes chancellor in 1932, 1933, what year?
January 3rd, 1933.
Okay. Um, so in
I believe.
1933, Hitler doesn't become chancellor on a platform of fucking over the Jews, of fucking over homosexuals, gypsies,
Oh, yes,
maybe
he did.
communists.
Oh, yes, he did.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
they knew what he stood for.
all right. Um, so I was going to argue that
They
maybe in
didn't know it.
1933 you maybe don't get out of Germany because it's not that ominous yet. But at some point it goes from not too ominous to very fucking ominous. And you want to get out before it goes to very fucking ominous. Because it becomes more difficult the more ominous it gets. And also, the value of the shit that you're going to sell to finance getting out of the country keeps dropping because your power to get the price that you deserve keeps dropping as part of that ominousness. So, I don't know, Trump gets elected for a second term, and maybe shit's not too ominous in February 1921. But it would be, we've got two dogs. One dog is half Whippet and half Chihuahua, and they're both nervous breeds. And this motherfucking dog always has its ears pinned back because it's always a little bit skittish. And, you know, if Trump gets elected a second time, my ears are going to be pinned a little bit more back than they are now. Now, does that mean that we immediately put our house on the market? No, but we, anyway, we can move on
I
from this. Um,
All right.
I,
I enjoy this. I'm actually enjoying this because to me, this really gets at the heart of how deeply brainwashed you've been by your media, that you really think that you're in some kind of danger if he takes over. 4 years without any particular war. I mean, we had a little war with ISIS, which got handled beautifully. But I mean, it's been a relatively peaceful situation. Um, I
except
fear,
you have federal troops deployed against U.S. citizens.
yeah, that are burning down police stations, and thank God they are. I'll tell you something. I have a legitimate fear that if he gets elected again, the tens of thousands of rioters that we've had over the murder of that innocent man by the police, that's going to be even worse if Trump gets elected. I mean, the riots we've had are just a little taste of what these people are capable of if Trump gets elected. Now, on that score, I've driven through LA and seen burned out buildings just from a couple of nights of riots. Now, if Trump gets elected again, they're not going to stop.
Well, no,
They've tasted blood.
let's talk about that because I mentioned like a certain set of circumstances. Well, Trump right now is a little less than on the aggregates of national polls. Trump trails Biden by a little less than 9 percentage points. And if that holds, now Trump, you're right. Trump could turn the economy around. and a miracle could happen. COVID could, a vaccine could come out in October. All this shit could happen, and Trump's approval and popularity versus or Biden could be shitty in the debates and Trump could be brilliant. A bunch of shit could happen, and Trump could narrow that 9-point gap to 2%. And it could be similar to what happened with Hillary, and he could pull out an unlikely but not wildly suspicious victory. But say we get to election day and Trump is still 6 points down, and he's trailing in 11 out of 14 swing states, and yet he manages to eke out an electoral vote victory, um, um, with what looks like shady shit going on now, and that with votes that defy logic. If something like that happened, those are the circumstances under which I'd be extra nervous if the vote didn't look legitimate. And in fact, you can't argue that you don't have suspicion about the legitimacy of the vote. You think the 2016 vote was fucked up in places. So it's not a thing that's beyond imagining, right? You imagine it from one side, I imagine it from the other.
Yeah, but
Each of us.
even if there was vote tampering, I don't know why he'd leave the country.
Well,
But
it
you
really
know, if it
depends on the
makes you happy,
circumstances. Like
okay.
Hitler got to take over because of the Reichstag fire, right? They burnt down the Parliament building in Berlin, and we
No,
don't know who.
that's not what I don't believe that's why he took over. He actually won the election. He was elected.
Yeah, but didn't he get further powers? Didn't what's his name kind of
Hin-
extra
hi-
resign because of the
There, there,
fire? There was, I mean, it was a bunch of
no,
there was
there
sketchy shit going on.
there was a fellow named Hindenburg
Yeah,
who was the a kind of a co-leader, and he believed in Hitler, and
and he
he
allowed himself to
allowed
be squeezed out.
yeah, but
So I mean, there was,
but I
so
mean
depending on
Hitler
how
was
much.
elected.
So I guess what I'm saying is, depending on how much sketchy shit happens in the next 6 months, would determine how far back my ears would be pinned. But let me talk about one more thing
Okay.
that only tangentially, um, uh, like I want to talk about the post office, both personally and politically. Trump, the Republicans don't want vote by mail. You guys claim that it's a playground for voter fraud. Um,
Excellent description. Go ahead.
okay. Um, and in fact, there's pressure on the post office right now where Trump appointed a new postmaster general. Um, and the post office has been kind of financially strapped for more than a decade now, because the post office has to pay future pensions up front. They have to set money aside to pay the future retirement salaries of current workers, which is a weird arrangement that puts the post office under constant financial pressure. In addition to the financial pressure caused by a drop in people, in actual mail, being replaced by email, and also by actual mail being replaced by UPS and FedEx and DHL. And now with COVID, the post office is understaffed, and like you've mailed your paintings to places, and you've had shitty experiences, right? Where shit gets beaten up.
Um, Not necessarily by the U.S. mail, but if you're
Yeah, but
telling
oh, all
me
right, but like you
that
could have, but
if you're
I've had
telling me
shit
not to
like,
trust the U.S. mail, then I think we both agree anything can happen when you give things to the U.S. mail.
well, the deal
And
is
you've
right now
had
they're
things broken.
understaffed, and I've
Yeah,
had, I had one box arrive just smashed to shit,
yeah.
and then I had another box that I think the last leg, it came from Belgium. And I think once it got to America, it was handled by the post office. And that thing arrived smashed to shit. And I think they're understaffed and I think pissed off probably. And also, like, probably everybody's doing 20% more work than they did before, which means boxes are just probably getting tossed. Like, if it's like a bucket brigade missing 20% of its bucket passers. Shit is just getting knocked around. So a tip is if you're going to mail shit right now, a pack like packages, like protect the shit out of it. The post office itself recommends putting a box in a box. Get a box that's reasonably close to the size of the thing you're sending, fill it with packing, then put that box in another box that's also filled with packing just for an extra layer of protection, especially now. Also pay for package tracking. I had a package that arrived okay, but it got stuck in Chicago for 17 days because the shit's fucked up in Chicago because of COVID. So, um, if you have, so just cover your ass with the post office. And I bought a thing from another foreign country, and this time I went with FedEx, and it was supposed to be take 2 days. It took, I think, 8 days, and it went to 9 different places. Started off in St. Petersburg, and then it went to 3 places in Sweden, and 2 places in Finland, and then to France, and then to Nashville before it got to me. So like shit's just, and
Yeah.
also like, and it's a political thing at this point. All right, the end.
All right. We got a letter from one of our viewers saying that the dirty jokes are part of the show and we shouldn't stop them. So just for your information, we should probably keep telling the dirty jokes. And it occurred to me when you were saying that Trump may come after you if he gets elected again. Well, you've already revealed on this show that you masturbate, so he can't
Yeah.
blackmail you. But I mean, I can't imagine anything that he could do to you that you haven't already done to yourself, Rick,
Yeah. Well, can
in
I talk
public.
about that? Can I talk about like the future?
I mean, I'm just thinking that Trump gets elected, and one of his first acts is to reveal that Rick Rosner masturbates.
Well,
That
let me
that would be devastating to an ordinary person, but not to you.
let me talk to you about what does devastate me. It's a very optimistic devastation. I'm reading a novel right now called Fall by Neil Stevenson, and it's about a guy in the near future who um, has his after death has his brain preserved. There's a thing called the connectomy or connectome. I don't know how you pronounce it, and it's a digital record of all the connections via dendrites among all the neurons in your brain. And in this novel, the connectome of this guy's brain, his brain is scanned with lasers after he's dead, and the process kind of burns it all up because they're using lasers, but it makes a map of all the connections among all the, like, you've got 10 to the 10th almost neurons in your brain, and each neuron has, I don't know, roughly 1,000 connections. These numbers might be off to other neurons. So it's fantastically complicated. But people think that if you could create a record of all these connections, that you could, when the technology is there 50 years from now, you could resurrect this person via that map of connections that a lot of brain scientists think is the map of your thoughts. So that's what happens in this novel. People start getting resurrected after their brains are scanned. And I'm hoping to have my brain preserved long enough for that technology, the scanning technology, and eventually the resurrection technology to be available. It's not that likely, but it's possible. Um, and so when I beat off, I'm like, you know, there are certain thoughts I shouldn't think to make myself, sexually excited, because if I'm
Interesting.
lucky, eventually that is going to be part of the map of my brain, and it's going to be, it could be revealed. So for a while, I held off on thinking
Uh,
particularly unsavory, like boner making thoughts, because I don't want that shit to be revealed. But I'm 60 and I've been touching myself for over 50 years now, and I wish, like, I'm working on a futuristic thing, and one of my ideas is like a product available in the future could be something that cleans out your spank bank, that that cleans out everything that you've ever thought of, gives you sexual amnesia about everything that made you jizz ever, and all of a sudden, like a well turned ankle could give you a boner again, that you become unjaded, you become innocent. A Playboy centerfold from 1972, where they didn't even, they didn't show any of the Mons area, would be able to make you aroused again because you're innocent again. Um, but but that's not me, because I've been jacking off for 50 years, and it takes some perverse shit. Um, and so I'm going to hate for that stuff to be revealed if it ever is. I don't know what people are going to do in the future about,
wow.
you know, but I'd love to have the opportunity. I'd love for that to be a problem for me to have, because that would mean that
Wow.
I'm getting resurrected.
Uh, you know, um, I think that we've reached a new level in our show. That the last your last revelation was so so perverse, and really I'd never even thought. Look at what you're getting. I'd like to talk to our millions of viewers. Look at the weird level of perversion that you're getting from this show. Things that people, normal human beings, would never have thought of these things. So, one more reason to subscribe. We're reaching the end of the show, and I just want to say, I had mentioned that I was on a drive to use science to reduce my biological age. And I'm part of a small group of, I believe, pioneers out there that are doing this in a very organized way. And I got some results this week I want to share
Oh,
with
nice.
the viewers. Yeah. Um, so the way you do it, there's a company, I think it's called Inner Age or whatever. I could look it up, but they test your blood for 5 or 6 markers and are able to predict your age. Now, I don't know how reliable these people are, but there is such a thing. It's not very difficult. It's called the Horvath test. The Horvath test may be a more elaborate version of it, but it's after a doctor, I think Stephen Horvath, who found that there were certain markers, if they were measured, could predict with tremendous accuracy your biological your age. Okay, so in other words, it was, if they guessed you were 46, almost all the time you were 46. And so what people found was that they could adjust their age by changing their diet and exercise.
So how'd you do?
And I was able to reduce my biological age. Your biological age is what you really are. Your chronological age is just the years you've been on this earth. But your biological age is the shape you're in. And I was able to reduce my age by 8 years.
From what to what?
I was 69, and
Nice.
I was able to go down to 61 or 2.
Okay.
and that's still older than I am.
Do
But
you know that you have to say, sorry, you know you have to say every time the number 69 comes up, you have to say nice.
well, I was
That's
wondering
from
why you
Bill and
suddenly
Ted.
approved of me. Yeah, I was wondering why I got the approval. But anyway, um, the the reason uh, I was able to do because people are interested in this, people want to live longer, is that the first test revealed several kind of severe vitamin deficiencies. And they all made sense. I understood exactly why these deficiencies had occurred, and it said that I wasn't getting enough aerobic activity. So I increased my aerobic activity and I went to the store and I loaded up on vitamins. And sure enough, it worked. The reason it didn't go down more is because I got in the habit of eating a lot of sugary shit. I have a good friend that's underweight, and so in order to help her, we've been going out and getting ice cream and donuts, and naturally I participated. So and one other thing, high sugar intake is bad.
Yeah.
This organization says that will definitely age you. So I just wanted to say, apparently, if you can believe these tests, this sort of thing, it does work. And I'm going to keep everyone informed of my future efforts.
All right, let me quickly
That's
add my
all I
two
have to say.
cents. If you're going to do a lot of vitamins, the two companies that I like are Vitacost for run-of-the-mill vitamins. They're reasonably priced. They're online. They offer a lot, they offer discounts a lot of the time. And then if you want more esoteric, fancy vitamins, go to Life Extension. And their vitamins are you know, backed up by, all sorts of studies that offer decent evidence that this shit might work for stuff like curcumin, maybe ficitin, metformin, which isn't a vitamin but is still, helpful to deal with issues of blood sugar. Um, that's it. That's all I got.
No, that's great.
I used it and then I got too
No, you
lazy
got
to
to
use
repeat the
it.
question. You got to repeat the question.
Okay, sorry. The director's asking about hair growth, and there's a thing. Kim Kardashian will pay somebody like $1,000 to take a spiky roller over her face and poke like 3,000 tiny little holes in it, because when you injure skin, your body sends healing factors to the wound, and you end up with more youthful, plumper skin. So I bought one of these rollers, and I was rolling this stabby thing all over my scalp to see if that would help, and then I just have been distracted and haven't done it much. I don't know if it helps or not, but you can buy one from China for like $4 if you want to try it. I don't know what's going on with my hair where um, I'm not sure I'm any balder than I was 5, 10 years ago, but the thickness, the actual diameter of my hairs um, is like half of what it used to be. And I don't know when it happened or what caused it, but I used to have very thick, dewy hair, and now I've got like very fine, feathery hair, which I don't like because that's like less fucking hair.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to look for it at Life Extension, is a supplement called NMN. And
Hmm.
there is a little teeny bit of hope that it helps your hair
Okay.
because it does, it's scientists at MIT and Harvard have gone on record saying that this stuff helps cells. So, and I've actually seen Harvard logo on the videos saying, yes, we do believe this helps cells. to be youthful. So I will be looking for NMN on life extension as part of my program.
Yeah, if they don't, if I've started using it on your recommendation, and there's another company that I can recommend next week maybe.
All right. Well,
But
let's
yeah, if you
remember.
cause like a lot of animals, apparently if you stab a pig in the belly, when the wound heals, there will be more hair around the wound. Don't go stabbing pigs. Um, but
I
apparently,
would just like to say, I actually had an operation. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I had a scar, and I had seen a number of dermatologists that said there's no way you can ever get rid of that. It's just there. And I finally found like a cosmetic surgeon type place, and they inflicted damage to the skin. Just it kind of tore it up, and it was horrifyingly. It looked really damaged for about a week, and then by God, it healed. And they did that by burning. They knew just how deep to go. But it is possible to get rid of some nasty stuff on your skin by beating it up and making it bloody. So I absolutely agree with that. It does work. I've seen it.
all
So
right.
that's
Should we
good to
wrap
know.
it up?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. If you want
All
to send
right.
us money, we like money. Um, Lance versus Rick at gmail.com is our PayPal address. Lance vs Rick.
Quick question. The director is asking a question.
Okay, direct.
Bonus track.
I don't think.
Well, you got
I
to
think
repeat
it's
the question, Rick. Rick, you got to repeat the question.
all right. Our director says that a lot of the shit we talk about, Joe Rogan and Adam Carolla talk about on their podcasts, and I don't think they're stealing from our show. I know a guy who sued a late night comedy show for stealing his jokes, and I think got a little settlement. But I didn't. He asked if I would testify for him, and I said no. I don't think I saw the jokes you're talking about, and I think it's entirely possible for people independently to come up with very similar jokes without stealing material. And there's just not that much stuff to talk about. And I think people with the, you know, you know, I've been friends with Corolla for a long time, and I'm not as brilliant as he is, but I'd say that there are some commonalities with our mental landscape. And the things that I think of talking about, maybe not, he maybe won't talk much about robot girlfriends, but I mean, it's part of the zeitgeist, the landscape of shit there is that's going on right now. People are going to come up with the same shit. That being said, Carol thinks that her phone spies on her, that it can hear what we're saying, and that it will send her news articles based on the shit we talk about with that phone in the room. And it's happened enough that I tend to believe it, though I've done no research to know whether that's a thing or not. Um,
Well, actually, I have listened to a documentary about that. And one of the things that Snowden, to refresh our viewers' memories, Snowden was one of the, he made a big reveal that the intelligence agencies were keeping records of our conversations, not the words in them, but the who we were talking to, and all these records are on file. I mean, they're kept in the cloud or on the internet somewhere. So Snowden revealed a lot of the things that the CIA has access to. and the NSA, our intelligence, and for that he was called a traitor. Well, it turns out this is actually very common sense. Even if they're not listening to your conversations, first of all, they could be, because the truth is you don't know if your phone's really turned off. You may think it's turned off, but it may not be.
Yeah,
That's the first.
you've seen it in a million movies where
No, but
you don't just turn off the phone, you pull out the SIM card, you smash the phone, you smash the SIM card.
yeah, that it's in a million movies because it's true. That it could very well still be on. But beyond that, he got into the details on how they do it. It's actually amazingly simple but ingenious. Your phone has GPS on it, and the records of everyone you speak to are on file. Those things are not lost. They're permanent. So what the government can do is this. They can look back from the very first day you got a cell phone with GPS. They know every single person in the country that has that. They know where they were and who they talked to. Even if they're not, don't interrupt me, even if they're not even if they're not interrupting Lance, even if they're not listening to the conversation, they know where you were and who you were talking to. And they can link that up with whoever you were talking to by the cell phones in your immediate vicinity. So with that knowledge alone, they can get any of us. They
Okay.
can make any kind of argument, and that's not going away. That's the way it is from now on.
Yeah. So,
All right.
so no privacy. All right, I'm going to sign off, and then I'm going to watch Perry Mason, which I like the new Perry Mason. It stars the guy from The Americans, and plus John Lithgow, plus the woman from Orphan Black, um, uh, the guy from Terminator. It's set in 1932. Fucking everybody is sweaty and dirty because it's the Depression. Um, anyway, I like it.
Okay, well, have at it. Have fun. And
Okay.
actually, next week, I think we can get 1 million viewers by titling our show Why Season 8 of Game of Thrones Was a Disaster. In
Do it,
fact,
please.
wait. Let's do it this time. All right,
Yeah,
guys.
director.
We're director. Put in the title of this show why season 8 of Game of Thrones was a disaster, and then the viewers will have to watch the whole 2.5 hours of this show and hear this sentence and realize they've been punked.
Yeah, and then next week we'll apologize. All right, that's a good idea.
Okay,
Thank you
very
for
good.
watching, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.